My name is Josh Matthews, and I'm a real estate agent in Indianapolis. I'm here with AJ Callis, and we are going to discuss where he's at in his living situation. Think of this as like a residential audit. We're going to figure out what his plans are and what his current stage in life is.
Mm-hmm. So my name is AJ. I am currently renting a townhome, and I've been renting it for maybe a year and a half, and I have 7 months left on my lease. And so that's currently where I'm at. I wanted to buy a house last year, but houses fell through, so I ended up renewing my lease. The rent increased by, a couple hundred, which was unfortunate, but I was happy to be able to continue to live somewhere because I didn't know if I was gonna be able to. I didn't know if it was gonna we got somebody already signed up. So I was like, all right, happy to live somewhere. But when my lease is up, I'd like to have some sort of home property or, have home ownership. That's the plan.
Have you, one thing that I would personally recommend to you is consider rereading through your lease and figuring out if there's a lease break clause that says you're penalized for breaking your lease before the end of your lease date.
Okay.
And then and I almost guarantee you that there is a lease break clause and a penalty for breaking your lease early.
More than probably the security deposit, or
that's what you need to read. That's what you want to find out. Because if you were to find a house today and be ready to move today, or let's say 3 months from now, or whatever your timeline is, which we're going to get into, then it might be worth that $1,000 security deposit to sacrifice that so that you move into your house. There's an old phrase that we use here in the Midwest. I don't know if you know about it or have heard it. Probably have. Don't step over dollars to pick up pennies, but also don't pick up pennies. Don't. What is it?
I don't know. I don't know this, but
so it's like you can part with $1,000 to gain an asset to pick up a house, right? So
yeah, and so
be willing, go back, reread your lease, and figure out. Okay, great.
Don't be afraid. If if you break your lease and you have to pay
big
them,
scary penalty. Woo, but okay, great. You're picking up a better. You're gaining an advantage that far outweighs the security deposit.
Yeah, that's honestly something that I haven't thought about because I've if I buy a house by this certain point, then I might just have to continue my lease and pay unnecessary money when.
Yeah. So if you're ready to buy today, then be ready to buy today. Don't kick that readiness out 6 months or 3 months or wherever you're at. If you're ready today, sacrifice the penalty to pick up what you're ready for.
Yeah, and so townhome is prepared for this.
That $1,000 security deposit or whatever your security deposit is. That security deposit is not in your pocket right now. Anyway, it's not accounted for in your finances whatsoever.
Yeah.
And if that's all your lease break penalty is, okay, great. You weren't even thinking about it in the first place.
But even if it was 2 months of rent and the security deposit, that's still cheaper than having to wait out my entire lease if it was 3 months or 4 months.
Yeah, and the next 3 or 4 months, 6 months, whatever, if you have a house today, you're paying into your house. So you're like you're saying, it's it's its own built-in savings account. Instead of paying your rent to your landlord and that's lost money, and you have your mortgage and you're paying that into your mortgage, well, you're building equity.
Got it. Yeah. Shoot. Okay. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And that's not something I had considered even possible. I just, in my mind, just didn't even think I thought I'm here till October and or I'm here till October and I have to pay until October, or pay until the lease is up.
And the conversation, depending on what kind of landlord you have, right? If it's a property manager or if it's a big giant behemoth of a corporation or it's some local guy who just owns this house that you're renting, you can have that. You can construct a conversation with him or that person to say something like, I want to give you proper notice so that you can market this house and we can let prospective tenants in here to check out this place. What does that look like for you? And how can I facilitate less vacancy on this property as I move out and somebody else moves in?
Yeah. Yeah, and I've chatted with them about that. They run through management pretty regularly. And so if I talk with someone and have a verbal understanding, the next person I might not. And so I think that because there's so many people involved, it's going to be like, what is the policy? Because if I work with a wonderful gal named Amy, and she's gone in 2 months at a different property, and then I'm working with a nice gentleman named Nick, he doesn't know any of the conversations we had. And so it's going to be, what is this, like, the company's policy? I know that because I've had conversations with them about that.
You could mitigate that a little bit by getting it in writing so that you have, for the next guy who fills Amy's role, you can just redirect them to the email.
Yeah, what am I doing? I'm talking face to face. Yeah.
The other, the riskier option, but it's still an option, is that you can sublet your house. I would get a sublease, like a lease agreement with your tenant, and have them pay your security deposit to you, and have them pay their rent to you, and then you just go pay rent to the property manager. It's not always legal. But it's widely practiced. I know, like, for example, in New York, like, it's not legal, but is a huge part of the New York rental culture.
What's it in Indianapolis?
It's almost guaranteed that it's going to be written into the lease that it's not allowed.
Sure.
But it's just so, because it's riskier and it's like, means that the landlord's not going to get paid by you. And
I'm the name that they've got.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So they're going to come after you.
Well, at least someone is.
If this guy doesn't,
it's nice to be wanted.
If this guy doesn't pay you their sublease, I did that one time. I was traveling or something for like 3 months and sublet my apartment out to some kid, and he paid for the first 2 months and then didn't pay the third month, and I could not track him down for the life of me forever. And so guess who had to pay rent that month? Did
you have like some sort of security from him, or
like he paid? No, I should have just had him pay the full 3 months up front.
That can be a lot for a lot of people. But
it was a lot for me.
Oh, you sure? Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
I was traveling on his dollar.
Oh, okay.
Because I mean, at that point, like whatever my rent was, $850 or whatever.
Yeah.
Like I had $850 less to be traveling on.
Yeah.
Sucks.
That does.
But that's subleasing.
So
that's why it's riskier.
So like as far as like the timeline is flexible for someone in my situation. So if I find something, hey, like, consider the options that are available.
I think the timeline is actually good for you to work or to think about buying today, because the interest rates are higher right now. Like they're kind of disgustingly high.
Why would that be a good thing for me?
Because there's less buyers to compete with.
Okay.
That interest rate is weeding out other buyers. It also puts the pressure on the seller because if the demand is lower, which is the whole design of interest rates, if the demand is lower, then sellers are going to see less demand, which they want to sell their product. They want high demand.
So they'll lower the prices possibly.
Or they'll be at least willing to negotiate. And one way to negotiate is like a cheaper house. Another way to negotiate is asking for some percent of seller credit to come back to you at the closing table, which you can then use to buy down your interest rate, so that the whole problem that everybody has right now is high interest rates. Well, if you got 2% back from the seller, you can apply that to your interest rate, buy down the interest rate, so that now all of a sudden you've got a lower interest rate.
I mean, with the way the interest rates are right now, what are you recommending for someone like me to do? Like, I know a lot of people say, oh, just refinance in a year. Is that something that you're just kind of trying to track where it's just like, hey, they're stupid high right now, refinance later?
Yeah, your lender is going to keep in touch with you.
Okay.
Because it's a large part of their business is refinancing. And so they'll stay in front of you, most likely, to keep you informed on what's happening with the interest rates. So when they do dip and it becomes reasonable, like a reasonable or what we've been accustomed to the last few years, like a lower interest rate, then they'll propose to you, hey, like now might be a really good time to refinance. You'll pay them for the refinancing, so it's in their benefit. Like they're going to get paid for refinancing.
So I pay them to then pay less money overall.
Yes. Okay. So it becomes a math question for you of whether the closing costs for refinancing, the price that the lender charges you to refinance, outweighs the savings and interest rates moving forward for however long you anticipate living in that house. That's what refinancing does.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So
if you think you're going to live in the house for another 5 years, and it costs you say $6,000 in closing costs to refinance, you have to save at least $6,000 over the next 5 years in lower interest. So you just figure out you run your mortgage through with 1% less interest, and if that savings over the next 5 years is greater than the closing cost that the lender charges, in this case we're using an example of $6,000, then you would do it.
Is that something I'd have to pay all up front?
Closing costs,
Yeah.
But then you would trickle in the savings over the course of the life of the
right
loan. But if you're only going to live in the house for another 1 or 2 years, then it probably doesn't.
Yeah.
It's probably not going to make sense. It's probably not going to make sense.
It's all just math.
It's all just math.
Yeah. Yeah, I know in my situation, I'm not sure. Like I like the areas that I'm looking in, but I don't know. Like with the way that my life circumstances can be in the future, I don't know. And so I don't know. It's like, well, the 10-year home or a 30-year home. I know a lot of mortgages are 30 years. And I don't know that that's something that like I would be able to find in my first or second home where it's like, this is where I will be, X amount of years in. But I do think that in my situation, like minimum 3, because I don't plan on leaving the areas that I'm looking at. That's just where I'm at, I think. But circumstances might change.
Yeah, I would. Is your income steady?
No. It can be. But for me, no. But if I needed to have a steady income, I can. In my line of work, it's not.
I think there are 4 key indicators on whether you're ready to buy a house or not. That you have 3.5% to put down. That depends on the kind of loan that you're going to get, whether you're going to apply for a conventional loan or an FHA loan. But 3 to 3.5% of the purchase price of the house.
Not 20?
Not 20. It's like the greatest myth of buying real estate.
Is 20%.
20% down. I don't know where this came from and why people talk about it, the mythical 20%. But yeah, like you only need 3 or 3.5%.
Oh, I'm sorry. I feel like I've even heard Dave Ramsey say like 20%, or maybe he's different because he might say like buy it all in cash. I don't know, but
the suggestion that Dave Ramsey puts out is actually 10 to 20%.
Okay.
He wants you to get into real estate sooner rather than later, so he'll say 10%. I think the overall wisdom of like higher percent down is that it like makes your monthly mortgage payment cheaper. I think also, just for like your purposes to have in the back of your mind, when you go to sell a house, it costs you 6% to pay your realtor to sell the home.
Okay.
So you want to have at least 6% in the house, like just like, but like you don't need that 6%, right? Because you're eventually going to pay that 6%. So you could like it's going to be a lot, like it's a 6% loss on the house, but hopefully over 5 years or 10 years, however long you live in the house, your house appreciates higher than that 6%. And you've paid in equity into that house that makes using a realtor make sense. And also the realtor is going to get you top dollar and sell the house faster anyway. So
Yeah. And I know in my situation, like my rent is very expensive.
Yeah.
And even if I think I had like less than 10% for a down payment, and I don't know, it depends on the interest rate, but I know it's going to be less like month to month. Now there are hidden costs, like my fridge breaks, I got to fix that, whatever. But like, I know in my situation, it's going to be cheaper in the long run just to own. But so 3 to 3.5% for a down payment is like the number one thing. What are the others?
there are 4 key indicators to buying a home: having 3.5% for your down payment and being able to cover closing costs. Number 2 is your credit's in good shape. Number 3 is that you're able to afford the mortgage payment. And generally, we recommend that's be no more than 25 to 30% of your take-home pay. And number 5, that you've got a little bit of income off to the side for things like your air conditioning goes out or your refrigerator breaks. Generally, those aren't very expensive repairs, but they happen, and you need to be prepared for them because summer in Indianapolis is hot, and you want air conditioning.
I know for my credit score is not bad. It's not great. I'm not in the 800s. I'm not perfect. I think I'm in the lower
And
7.
like nobody is.
Right.
Nobody's perfect.
Thanks. I need to hear that. But I know I'm in the lower 700s. And so in my mind, like, okay, before I buy a house, like the things I'm doing over the next couple months to increase that is I'm having less percentage utilization on my credit cards, paying off all of the debt that I've amassed. And I recently opened up another credit card so that my max limit is like more over all of the credit cards. Because I was just dealing with one for like years. So I was like, I probably need one more in my mind. That's what I was thinking. So it's like, instead of it being this amount of money for my max limit, now it's just more. And I'm going to just pay off whatever is there. And so like, I'm thinking by the time I'm ready to buy a house, it'll be at least a little better. I don't know how much that's going to impact like what the lender is able to do for me. But in my mind, it's like, I did what I need to do, and like I'll have good conscience. So like those are the things that I'm doing. I don't know if there are other things I need to do.
I think there are a couple of reasons that your credit score might be under 600. Not yours,
Sure.
but somebody's credit score might be under 600. And that's like you're bleeding out, like you're dying. You're a wounded animal, and you need repair fast. That could be you've got bills and collections. That could be you've just not had credit open for long enough, like you're new to the game, and you just need to build up. So the easiest one to repair, because obviously you can't advance your age like super quickly,
No.
or at all. Like you just have 24 hours at a time.
Every day.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's it. But
chopping wood.
just doing what I can. I moisturize my face every once in a while, so like I think I might slow the process down. But
On the back end.
On the back end, yeah.
You're front paying, you're aging.
Right. So my credit cards, they're only gonna be alive for so long. So what can I do? What agency
So
do I
stop
have?
the bleeding.
Stop bleeding.
Stop bleeding.
Okay. Is it, by bleeding you mean
Pay the collections.
Okay.
And then call and say, hey, can you take this off my credit report? I paid you. Can you get that?
What would that look like? So
Well, it's not easy
okay.
and it sucks.
Yeah. But
It'll help.
okay.
It'll get your credit score up.
Is that something that
quickly.
you would do with somebody or like a lender?
No,
Like,
you personally.
like me. Okay. So
You would
I
call
would
the
do
collection agency.
Got it.
And you would say, hey, sometimes you can negotiate with them. So for example, you might have $2,000 that in a medical bill that you forgot about or didn't know about or neglected, and it goes off to collections. Collections is not the hospital. It is a third party who bought the debt from the hospital. And you can then call collections and say, I know that I owe this, but then in the back of your mind, you also know they bought the debt at a discounted rate for what the debt costs. So you might have owed the hospital $2,000, but the debt collector paid the hospital pennies on the dollar for the debt, say $500. So you know the debt collector only has to cover the $500 they spent to acquire the debt from the bank, from the hospital. When in your mind you owe $2,000, but in the debt collector's mind they'll be happy if they get $1,000.
So I don't understand why they would do that, but that's something that if you were working with somebody like me in the future, like you'd be like, hey, like let's, maybe take a look at your finances and figure out how we can best set you up. Or that's something that's like, I got to figure that out on my own. I got to talk to financial people, or like, I don't know.
First step would be to get a hold of a lender and run your credit report. All those kind of red flags are going to show up in the credit report.
Got it.
It'll show you how much you owe. It'll show you how late you are. It'll show you who owns the debt. Kind of all the critical components to the bleeding, the problem. And then you can go straight to the source and say, I understand. So you could negotiate with debt collector. The reason why debt collectors buy the debt from the hospital in this example is that it's their business to chase after you and recoup the money. The hospital's business is
sewing me up,
stitching you up and helping you be better. And so they hope that they anticipate people will pay their bill. Just like when you go to Walmart, you don't take bananas and leave.
It seems like a lot of the financial questions are like the beginning of that answer is you connecting me to a lender. And that's, I feel like, where most people like are stuck with real estate, or like where like I'm going to buy a house. I'm like, oh, what about the money? And so you are like, well, let's immediately connect you to this money guy who specializes with money. Like that seems to be like the first step.
I think people are nervous to buy for various reasons.
I am. What do you think? What do you think my nervous reasons are?
Well, so I think it all comes back to lack of information, or just lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
It reminds me when I wanted to get into coffee as a thing to enjoy.
Okay.
And nobody is born with coffee knowledge.
No.
That knowledge comes from other people, baristas. I remember asking a barista one time, what is the difference? And I was so nervous to ask this question. And I said, what is the difference between an Americano and a latte?
Okay, I drink a lot of coffee. I'm not quite sure if I even know. Let me guess. Like, this is like, I'm being serious.
Really? You don't know?
Lattes have milk.
Yeah.
Americanos, are they water? Like where there's just more water?
See, I was about to laugh at you.
Okay.
Which is what the barista did to me.
Okay.
Because this is such an obvious and blatant, difference.
What is it?
You're right. Lattes have milk. And Americanos are espresso and hot water. Basically, black coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I was laughed at.
Oh, okay.
And I almost laughed at you.
Why would you laugh at me?
Because I was pretentious almost.
Oh, okay.
But I didn't laugh at you.
Thank you.
So I wasn't pretentious.
Right.
Instead, I educated you.
Yeah. Well, okay.
Which is what we all want
Yeah.
when we're learning something new.
Right.
And there's this big scary monster in real estate called the real estate agent or the realtor. And that person typically will just dismiss you or laugh at you when you start asking these questions. And that stinks.
Yeah. I'm glad that you didn't laugh at me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want you to know about coffee.
Especially because I was right.
Yeah. Right.
Right.
We're going to take a break from today's episode and talk about today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is you. So be sure to smash that like button, follow, and what else? For me, one of the many reasons that and this changes forms over time, but one of the many reasons that I didn't want to buy a house was so that I could live fast and loose. that I could travel and see the world and
Sure.
not be beholden to a mortgage or a house or anything, really. I think being worried about finances is a worthy concern. I think the boogeyman can be taken out by talking to a lender, and it's like a very simple, non-committal conversation. Like, hey, can you run my credit and let me know what I would be pre-approved to buy? I might not buy today, but I want to know what I would qualify today for. And then, there goes all the concern. The reason why there might be additional concern is like, do I have money in the bank for after I get the house?
Right.
That's a you question. What is your risk tolerance?
And then like with location, because it's like with these, with Indianapolis, there's so many different neighborhoods. There's so many different areas. There are, the greater suburbs. There's a lot where it's like, I don't know like where. I know I want to be in Indy. I know I want to be in this specific place, but I don't know like what's the best place and as far as like relationship to other things or what I need. So that's you.
A lot of that is you.
Oh, it's me.
A lot of that is
It's me. Okay.
A lot of that is like decisions that your family have to make, or decisions that, if you're single, then like maybe proximity to work, proximity to a highway, proximity to parks, proximity to bike paths, proximity to co-working spaces or coffee shops, or proximity to like where do you want to, what lifestyle, where you live represents your lifestyle. And like, I can't determine your lifestyle. I can.
And it is a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle. But that, yeah,
I know Panera is very important to you.
Free coffee is very important to me. If there are other places that'll give me free coffee for $10 a month, then I'll go there. Easy.
Yeah, it's a remarkable deal.
Yeah, and coffee is such a high markup. It's like side note, coffee is it's stupid marked up. And so when they go, hey, we'll give you basically coffee for free, then I'm gonna buy a sandwich. I'm gonna buy whatever.
And Panera is not sponsoring this. The sponsor is you.
All right. So my financial nervousness, that's...
Again, though, like, talk to your lender.
Right.
Like, they're going to give you the most specific advice about how to better your credit score.
Do you
But
work...
also, like, you don't need credit. Like, you don't need credit over 640. A lot of the mortgage loan products, like, assume a 640 credit score.
Okay.
Not a 700, not an 800, 640. And that's like easy.
Okay.
No offense to people who have lower credit scores.
But that just means that
It's
you can
easy.
get it up.
Yeah.
Like if it is below that, then it's
Yeah.
like, okay, let's figure out the other problems to get that up.
Yeah, I mean, and even if your credit is 580, like you only have to bump 60 points. We can bump your credit score 60 points in a matter of a couple weeks. If you pay off your collections, get those wiped off from your credit report, ask for and honestly, the banks might not give you more credit, but you can ask. You can go take out another credit card. If your current bank won't give you a higher credit limit, then go take out another credit card and put $10 on it and maintain a balance of $10. And ask for a raise at your job. Get it in writing so that you can show the lender, hey, I've got more income coming in. Why do you want to own a house?
I don't think I have a reason, honestly, besides I've been told I'm supposed to own a home and I hate renting. So it's like societal pressures, parental pressures, and I don't like my current situation. So it's like the modern common wisdom is own, and I don't like this thing. So it's like against this negative and like for that positive, where it's like people have told me this is a wise thing. I haven't done the math. I don't know. But like that's my initial feeling is people have told me it's good and I hate this thing. That's my perspective.
You know, I think ownership too, like you have like and you don't so the thing when you're buying, like you're not thinking about having buy-in to the neighborhood, but you do, and that improves your lifestyle because now you're one among many. Like that's the neighborhood that you live in. You have ownership over not only your house but the neighborhood, and you treat you don't speed through your neighborhood because like the kid that lives next door, and or you don't like you don't leave your trash can out at the street for 3 days after trash day. Like, you bring your trash can back because you care about your neighborhood. You care about your neighbor's perception of you, so you plant flowers in the front yard.
Yeah, and it's like with where I'm at right now, like I don't even have the option to plant flowers, and I do have the option to put my trash in a garbage dumpster, and some people don't even do that. And so it's like that makes sense that it's like you treat things differently. But
if you spilled coffee on your carpet here,
right,
like, you do your best to clean it up, but you wouldn't do the best to clean it up. You do a good job cleaning it up, but you wouldn't do the best job cleaning it up because it's not your carpet. Like, and that, like, we all do that. Like, we all cut corners, or like, another reason why I think people are like nervous to buy a house is they don't know what owning a house entails. I remember I remember the first time that the smoke detector like started beeping in my apartment, and I was like, "The heck is that sound?" And then I, quickly realized, oh, it's a smoke detector. But why is it beeping? I had no idea because I'd never encountered that before. And my solution to that was call the landlord, call the property manager. Hey, this thing's beeping. Why? It's like so stupid because I didn't know what it was, and it wasn't mine to fix. So he told me the batteries are dead, and it's trying to tell you that the batteries are dead. So just change the batteries. And I said, well, how do I do that? It's all the way up there. And he said, go get a step stool, twist the thing off, pop the battery out, put a new battery in. It's like a $5 fix at the most. That's an expensive battery. And I was like, oh, okay. And now in hindsight, I'm thinking, man, he probably thought I was just a big, huge idiot because I didn't know how to change the battery of a smoke detector. And like in reality, it was like, it wasn't mine. Like I didn't own it. I didn't own.
So the problem wasn't even yours.
The problem wasn't even mine. Yeah. So I outsourced it to my landlord and annoyed him for a very simple thing that I could have. I didn't even have to. I probably didn't even have to go to Google to figure out how to solve this. I probably could have just investigated it myself. But the ownership was missing. Some of that too, I think people are just nervous to break something. And so they might, I also, some element to me was I don't know, I'm unfamiliar with this thing. I don't want to break anything by messing with it. So let me just call and see if they can give me some advice. So
I'm not a handyman.
I don't know how to swing a hammer.
The ownership and the feelings, that's important, but I really think it's trying to just negate the financial costs that come with renting. I think that it'll be like falling in love when I own something where it's oh, I love that I'm able to do this stuff. But I think that it's man, I know I can save, over the course of a year, maybe a couple $1,000s by buying a house, every year. And I'm like, oh, what would I do with that money?
Yeah. Doesn't need to be a lot of money. 3%. And then just make sure your credit is 640 or higher would be gravy.
Yeah. And easy ways to get it up if it's not 640 is pay off what you've got. Don't bleed.
Yep.
And if
maintain and decrease your debt to income and increase your loan to value. So decrease how much you owe, increase your income, and increase your credit limit, but decrease how much you're using. And then like go figure out where you want to live. And then contact a good real estate agent who can answer your coffee questions without laughing at you. You know?
Yeah.
Teach you, has the heart of a teacher and can teach you the market. Teach you things like this lending boogeyman or the credit score boogeyman or, you know, inspections or, you know, all those scary things. And it makes sense that you don't know them because you've never done them before. Like you've never gotten an inspection report on a home before. So you don't know what to look out for. There's a whole bazillion things to look out for, you know? Or an appraisal. You don't know what an appraisal is. Like you do this once every 5 years, once every 10 years, you know? I do this
in your sleep
5 times a month.
Sure.
You know? Are you pre-approved?
No.
Okay. You can do that by the end of the day.
Okay.
It's a 30-minute phone call or email exchange with your lender.
Okay. And so if I don't have a lender, I can talk to you.
I recommend 1 or 2 or 3, however many you need.
I only need 1, right?
Right. You only need 1. I guess there's a difference between lenders, but it's not important to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you'll know what
I'll
to do.
recommend you a lender.
Okay. And so get pre-approved, can do that by the end of the day. And then once I'm approved.
Once you're approved, you're going to know your credit score. Once you're pre-approved, you'll know your credit score. And your lender will be able to help you kind of navigate, like if your credit needs repair, he or she will be able to guide you on how to repair it.
Does the pre-approval process like let me know how much money I've got to spend on a house or not yet?
You know how much money you have to spend on a house.
Sure.
But they're
I didn't know if like the bank is going to be like, this is what your loan.
The bank is going to tell you the number that they will lend to you at. It's your responsibility to work that math backwards and figure out, okay, 25% of my take-home pay is X, and I'm willing to spend that on my mortgage.
So in my situation, work with you to connect to a lender. Then that lender gets me pre-approved. I know how much money I have from the bank or what I need to do. Then I go back to you. We find me a house. We get me into that house. And then we shake hands, exchange keys, and all that.
Yeah, but usually those conversations are happening simultaneously. So
Okay.
I will never leave your side, and I will stay with you.
Thank you.
Through thick and through thin. Chances are I am talking to the lender at the same time. So I'm being kept up to date on both sides, and we can together. So I'm helping you buy the house. I'm helping you find the house, and the lender is helping you buy the house. We are your team. And that's why it's important for me to suggest to you a lender, because without a lender, you can't buy the house that I'm helping you get.
Gotcha. So this person is going to be you're going to have to be really tight with them. Like you'll have to know them and trust them. It's not just oh, here's this guy who,
Yeah, there are lenders. There are lenders that are better communicators. There are lenders who have different loan products that might suit you better. Might make it cheaper for you to move into a house, or might be able to give you a better interest rate or a better rate on your money. And I know those guys.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Sweet. So those are my steps.
Yep.
Awesome. And so then in my situation, I mean, if it was up to you, how fast do you think you could get me into a house?
I can get you into a house. So, if we started looking at houses today, we could probably lock something in. If your credit is good and you're lendable, we could get you. We could buy a house in 40 days from today, if we found the house, today or in the next couple of days. If we had time and you aren't if you're not lendable as you live and breathe today, we would need to do some repair, then I think 90 days is a good time frame.
Okay. So,
And a lot of that work is going to be done like on your side, paying off the collections, negotiating and paying off collections, getting those wiped from your credit report. Improving, like, paying down some of your credit or paying down some of your debt. And some of that is like, well, you just need to go out and make money and spend that money on your debt and then build up your money back again. And so whatever, however bad your situation is, good or bad your situation is, it's going to dictate how long it takes for you to buy a house.
but we're looking at 6 months.
So if you're 6 months out and you've got a really bad credit situation, we have time to like piece that together. I would talk to your lender, get pre-approved. And if your credit is in the tank, then we need to get your credit up. And that might mean, you're working to pay off your debt. And then after that point, you're working to build your down payment again.
Well, cool. Well, I feel good about that. I think that makes sense to me. I don't think that there's anything that is keeping me from doing what I need to do now that I know that it's just connect with you, lender, get approved, find the place, and within 2 to 3 months, like we're golden.
Yeah. You know the difference between an Americano and a latte now.
I do. I know a lot.
Yeah. So the next steps for you are to consider if the benefits of buying a house outweigh the consequences of breaking your lease. Then contact me. I'll put you in touch with a lender. Those conversations will be happening simultaneously. And as you get pre-approved, then we will go check out homes. And as soon as we find you a home, we'll write an offer and get you in contract.
Well, sweet.
Do you have any questions for me?
I don't think so. I think that was helpful. I think that's it.
That's it.
Sweet. Well, thank you.
You bet. AJ sounds like he's in pretty good shape. We got all his questions answered. So if you have real estate questions, reach out to me and we'll get coffee on the books.